The idea there during my short presentation is going to be to convey some messages and some food for thoughts for your future day and World Cafe. So it's a very short presentation, but I wanted to convey a couple of messages that might be inspiring for you. The first thing is that today, regarding the world as it is and all that happens, people that are protecting themselves and people that are refraining and afraid are not going to be, making things better, neither for them nor for the world. And so the word that I've chosen instead of inspiring is also dare. And dare in the way you develop the product, dare to change the way you do it, dare to create differently. So the first thing I'd like to share with you is that as being a small size company, although you might have heard of us recently, the idea there is that you don't have the access to the usual stuff. I mean, sources of inspiration. You don't have like a fundamental research department. You don't have access to all the marketing data. I used to work, not from PhD, I'm sorry, for Procter & Gamble. I used to work for G&G. So I know precisely what I had before joining Desange 13 years ago, access to enormous data. Being a smaller size company, you don't have this access. So you have to find above what you have, the usual, the traditional, the suppliers for the formulation department, the people coming with new raw materials, new innovations, the marketing people that have access to the data, to the learnings that they have from the competition. You have to access other sources of inspiration. And so my first message here is don't just benchmark innovation. Try to innovate benchmarking, especially if you are in a smaller size company. Meaning that try to find other sources of inspiration. And for that, I'm going to tell a little story. The story itself has no importance, so to speak. 10 years ago, we decided, as being one of the leading brands for services in hair, to diversify into products. And we said, well, it's going to be challenging, very challenging. There's competition out there. People are not waiting for us. But we do have the customers, the same one that the high-end brands, premium brands have, the same women. We have there sitting for an hour, 2 hours. And the challenge is that we want them to use our skincare products to be convinced. So what could be, innovative in the way we benchmark? We don't want to copy all the marks. So we did a survey, and we decided to start by the launch of an anti-aging product because it's a hero product of a natural, segment of a fast-growing segment of skincare. And we said, let's innovate. Let's don't just benchmark, the competition. Ask our formulators to look into anti-aging ingredients that they have in the raw material pool. Try to find something different. And what we did was, let's think about a market where there are a lot of seniors, okay? Let's think about a market where, and that could be Japan, for instance, that could be United States or Western Europe. Let's think about a country where these seniors are happy, active adults, and consuming a lot. And so naturally we came into trying to benchmark what happens in the US. But we didn't want to benchmark what happened in the US, let's say, in the cosmetic industry or skincare industry. So we said, what are they doing every day, these people? And so I've got my personal touch to it. I've got great parents, they are 80 plus, and they look like 10 years younger. And they use a lot of dietary supplements, they use a lot of activities, part-time of their life is in the States, in Florida. So I was also observing from a personal point of view the way they react and the way they inspire me as their girl and daughter. That's the sources of inspiration. But basically what I did is that among all other access that I have, I just wanted my teams to innovate in the way they benchmark. We'll let you know later on what occurred. The second thing I want to share with you is that I was tired in the big organization, being a scientist myself from my background, not really in my professional life, by all these project manager in between, you know, this big matrix organization when you have the R&D, then you have the marketing, then you have the training. And these people, yes, we were talking about Nung with coherence previously. And these people were not on the same path, on the same wavelengths all the time. And you needed like people in between to help them working together. Not all the time, but in certain structure. And I said, because the challenge is huge, you know, from scratch, launching a new skincare line, we need to think differently. We need to approach it in a different way. I cannot afford anyway to be R&D driven. I cannot afford to be marketing driven. Let's be multi-driven. And that's what we decided. From scratch, we decided that the team, R&D, training, marketing, will be working together from scratch. I mean, I had the formulators thinking about concept, about positioning. I had the marketers thinking about what kind of ingredients or product in other countries or segments. And we, of course, we had the rest. But the idea there was trying to create a product together from scratch. Not being just you know, a mailbox for R&D to receive a specification from marketing, or not to be for the formulators coming with the latest innovation of their favorite suppliers. So we did something unusual, and we succeeded, hopefully, because I'm telling this story because it's also a success. But multi-driven is important, and not only it, you know, convey that you're in the good. You're doing good because you're challenging different type of people, not only one category being the marketing people. So that's the second thing, co-create. You know, don't benchmark innovation and co-create. That's very important. So what happened, these people thinking together, is that finally we decided that we were taking a risk. Remember, it was almost 10 years ago. Huh? Today, things are different. And we decided to mimic a US dietary supplement for seniors. That's what came across us. After, you know, changing and innovating benchmarking, we said, well, yeah, you know, the skin is an organ, brain is an organ. These active adults, they are taking this starting at 50 plus in the US. Why don't we just go deeper into that path of research? So, of course, we did the usual stuff there, you know, studying, screening, looking at different type of ingredients. And finally, in terms of marketing, you can see the color codes. The red is very important for the seniors. You know, there are many things. That's not the point today. So the idea there was mimic something different, not the nature, but the American dietary supplements for seniors, because we benchmark from the target angle in another type of activity. And that's a different way to approach the development of an anti-aging product. Then we co-create, and it's not important to know what ingredient we put in there, but in terms of micronutrition, in terms of cognition, in terms of cognitive values, in terms of, you know, connections, connecting anything, thinking as a brand for the skin. That was basically the idea there. So finally, the product is successful. Thank you. For 10 years now, it has been the number one in value, even if we repackaged it. And that is important because we innovate benchmarking. Nowadays, our marketing people, if they do not all the time co-create with the R&D people, at least they observe differently from a target angle, and not only from competition or market surveys in the same field of things or consuming type of habits. They are looking differently at things. Co-create is something that we have, you know, totally innovate into, and it was a different way of thinking, being in the bliss, Jean-François, but together, formulators and marketers and training people. And it had tremendous amount of small consequences. I picked up one. But it has opened for our research and department center, for instance, open a whole new world of fields of sourcing, because the people at the time, 10 years ago, that were suppliers for the dietary supplements were not the same one that the one, not always actually, supplying the, the skincare or the usual cosmetic formulation companies. So it has opened new connections, new way of sourcing, and many, many other things that were interesting. And I'd like to insist on the fact that when you're going to work, the idea there was to be inspiring, and when you're going to work later on, try to really get rid of all your process habits. What we've been through in that, I don't have the time to develop today, but it was very challenging. The factory is ISO 9001, we have process, we have product development process, so it was a challenge to implement all that. I'm not getting into the details. But try to think differently and try to co-create. That's what you're going to do in a few hours or minutes, and hopefully you're going to be as successful as our product has been. And saying that, it's going to open for you a total amount of new connections and a new world. And it's also what's going to matter tomorrow, as probably Phil will, and Fernanda, obviously, will let you know. Thank you.